Call the December 21st Common Council meeting order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Recording in progress.
Mayor Olson.
Here.
Alderman Hopeford.
Here.
Alderman Mayor.
Here.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Here.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Here.
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Nelson.
Here. We have a quorum. Please rise, join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, just want to take the opportunity to wish everyone in the audience, all of our citizens, 36,000 of you, all of their families, a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And I hope that you all get an opportunity to spend with friends and family and have a nice, peaceful one. So Merry Christmas to all of you. With that, I'll open the citizens' comment period. Any citizen wishing to speak, please rise, come forward, give us your name and address. Mr. Ritter, good evening.
Hi. That's an area that is a little bit east of the St. Martin's Village area on the north side of Church Street. I'm here to strongly encourage you and request that you vote in favor of two of the items that are on your agenda tonight, G15 and G21. G15 concerns a spot on the 116th hiking biking trail, described as about 500 feet south of Sunnybrook Road, in an area where a stream passes underneath the trail. Apparently there's agreement that some improvements, some repairs need to be made at that location. And an agreement apparently has been worked out with We Energies regarding that for a relatively moderate cost. So I would strongly encourage you to vote in favor of that. I was out there this morning. It was 17 degrees when I left my house, but it wasn't just me out there. There were at least two other individuals out walking and two others out walking their dogs. So these trails do get used all year round. So this is definitely worth doing. It enables us to keep something that we already have. So please do that. G21 concerns, it's a step in a process. It concerns acquisition of land on the north side of Church Street so that a hike bike trail can be installed there. And that is a twofer. It will add a little bit to the trails that hike bike trails that we already have, but even more significantly, it will connect. It'll be the connection between two much larger, much longer areas of hiking, biking trails and sidewalks that are already there. And this will facilitate, connecting those places, getting right into the heart of downtown St. Martin's area there. So this is a step in the process. This isn't an approval of a trail. I hope staff is working on a design for it, but this would, as I understand it, deal with acquisition of land in order to facilitate that. And maybe even, as I look at some of the drawings, suggest that some of that land is actually under what is now Church Street. So being in favor of public streets being on public property, that would need to be another reason for going ahead with this action. So I would encourage you to vote in favor of G21 also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Frank Januszewski. I live at 12301 West Ryan Road, directly south of the proposed crossing, Cape Crossing development. I have driven around the city. I have not seen a subdivision in the city of Franklin with quarter-acre lots. I have not seen a subdivision with over 140 proposed housing sites with one entrance. There are 11 properties in Franklin that are on Ryan Road. Between this development and the 26 townhome units, that's going to increase that access to Ryan Road by 14 times what currently exists. Traffic already on Ryan Road between 45 and Loomis is a shortcut. The road is narrow. There is no shoulder on the road. It's dangerous to ride a bike on that road, and it's dangerous to walk your dog, especially in the winter when you've got piles of snow where you can't get off the road. I watched all day today. They're drilling holes all over the property today. Does anybody know why? Do you have test results of the drilling today? How can you vote on something you have not the information on? I'm clueless how, do you know what the drilling was today on the property? They were there all day, over 8 hours, drilling all over that property. At the Planning Commission, there was serious concerns from one of the planning directors about water. I can relate to that because there's wetlands all around that. There's one entrance and exit to this massive, what I would call extremely dense development. I see nothing but problems going forward with traffic, not to mention the thousands of commercial vehicles that are going to go in and out of there if this thing is approved and the houses are going to be built. There's serious concerns about the oil pipeline that's on the east side of the property. I, in my opinion, would strongly consider denying this for a poor fit for this piece of property. Not against subdivisions, but 142 units on 85 acres is crazy. And it's not what it's zoned for. It's zoned properly for estate residential, maybe 20, 30, 50 properties, not 142. So I would ask you to really consider all the data, all the previous presentations that have been made by the citizens of that area, and even the objections of one of the planning commissioners who was strongly against this development. So hope you vote no on this.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Hi, Tom Benning, 11720 West Ryan Road. I live real close to the proposed subdivision, and like that gentleman said, that is way too many houses to be putting in there. They're stacking houses in there. When you look at the plan, it looks like a road map of New York, not Franklin. It's should be more spread out, maybe estate-type houses, and the traffic is a huge concern. And it's my understanding a traffic study was done while North Cape was closed. We should have a revised traffic study now that North Cape is open. And as the other gentleman stated, there's a huge danger walking down that road, let alone adding that many more cars down it. And what isn't taken into account is there's a proposed development across the street for Bear that's just going to add even more. And as far as the water table and soil is concerned, when the sewer came through, the few of us that live on that road, when we hooked up, we all learned real quick about where the water table is. Every one of our houses has 3 to 4 bentonite dams just in the laterals from the road to our houses. It's stacking houses. That developer can do far better than what they have drawn out. I can't see Franklin allowing this. This isn't Franklin. We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Eric Belsorelski, 11930 West Ryan Road. So I own the house directly to the east of this property, right on the other side of the transit. Been there for about 27 years, and I've seen, traffic increase when those subdivisions went up right on North Cape, on the Muskego side. Got a little bit worse. With the subdivision going in on the other side of North Cape, more in Muskego, traffic's even getting worse. When these go in, I think it's gonna be crazy. I mean, I walk my dog all the time down Ryan, and when that trail's open, and not everybody's gonna use a trail. I mean, if you're on a bike, you're really not, because that trail is gonna lead right to the trail by Champions Village, and unless they pave that, nobody's gonna ride their bike up and down that path that's there. I mean, other than that, I mean, the traffic is gonna be, they're one way in, one way out. I mean, that's pretty much how we're gonna be leaving our driveway, except with 300 extra cars that weren't there before. I mean, it's gonna be crazy. That stoplight on 36 in Orion, I mean, you're gambling every time you go through that because there's not a turn lane. So if you're the second car in line and you're going straight down Ryan towards 94 or something like that, the car in front of you is turning northeast on 36. You're just sort of looking past his car, seeing if the guy is turning that's going east, and you're trying to go around him and hoping that he's not going to T-bone you. It's a dangerous intersection. With this extra traffic, I think it's going to be backed up, I mean, halfway down Ryan. I mean, unless you put a big roundabout there, that I don't see any way to fix that. There's gonna, or turn lanes, but it's not wide enough. I mean, so I don't know how you're gonna fix that. People are they're probably gonna die at that intersection. And North Cape and Ryan's not much better. I don't know if they're gonna put a stoplight there. That's Muskiego's problem, I guess. But other than that, I mean, yeah, if the whole subdivision looked like the estate side, I think that'd be fine. But that villa section looks like West Dallas South or Wauwatosa. I mean, it's 15 feet from house to house. That's worse than my brother's house on 68th and North. That doesn't save Franklin, really. Or else you should put a big fence in front of that so when you're driving past, you can't see that. I mean, because that's just it's gonna look horrible. So I would say vote no. Just like Tommy said, the traffic study was done October 21st, 22nd, and 25th, when North Cape was closed. At first, we had increased traffic when they shut down North Cape, but then walking the dog was great because everybody just avoided that area. So it definitely needs that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good evening.
Evening. John, I'm impressed by the close. Mike Shago, 10250 West Ryan Road. I want to reinforce what these gentlemen have said. Since August, when we started learning about all the proposed subdivisions on the west side of Franklin, a number of us in the community on the west side especially became alarmed that it was tremendous overdevelopment, bringing way too many people into the west side. We do not have the infrastructure to support it. The major concern I have is we have a master plan. Why aren't we sticking to it? Why is it that every time there's some project on the west side of Franklin that it involves rezoning? If the master plan is that bad, then take the time and change it so that all these new projects fit. Because right now, it looks like it's just craziness. Whatever developer comes into town and wants to develop something, let's change the zoning and let them do it. I'm extremely concerned about the safety aspect, like these gentlemen are, of that intersection of Highway 36. It's Highway 36 and Ryan Road. It isn't 76th and Oakwood. It isn't 51st and Putes. It's a major highway, a major thoroughfare to the Lake Geneva area, and has tremendous traffic every day, let alone the dozens of garbage trucks, the dozens of transfer trailers hauling garbage, and all the other commercial truck traffic that goes down that road, that some of the guys are taking the shortcut on Ryan Road past our houses where we live now. It's going to cause a major accident on that intersection with this many new homes, this many new people coming in there. It's just not a good fit. It's not a good fit for that area. And I reinforce these guys on the soil. I've been to 2 hearings, 2 planning commission meetings, and 2 council meetings. There's been a large number of residents in the area who do not support what's going on out there. The Ryan Meadows thing is feeding all these cars and people into that same little area. It can't accommodate it. It's a nightmare. It's a disaster. And it's one that you people sitting at this desk are going to have to live with in the 4 or 5 years that you're here. It's something that the people that live there are going to have to live with for the long time. So when you make a decision tonight about this subdivision, think long and hard, because those of us that live there are going to have to live there with what decision you make for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good evening.
Hi, Debbie Davis. I'm a little further east on Ryan Road in the Briarwood subdivision, District 6 right now, transitioning to District 1. We will be part of your district, and I want to support everything that's been said so far. I was at the last Planning Commission meeting, and I know when concerns about the zoning came up, the developer said, well, it's the same density. It's just that some yards, some units have larger yards and some units have smaller yards. Well, there's a problem with that because the land is so wet that with those smaller yards, there's less space to deal with the stormwater runoff. So it doesn't, it also decreases setback, and all of our zoning codes are null when you change to a PDD. So it's not a good change. And when people talk about, you know, parts of our UDO or our planning being obsolete, this is one of them actually, because the soil should be tested before. I mean, it's not appropriate for R3 either because the soil is just too wet. So my first choice is that this project is just denied. If they have sewer, and if the city decides they'll run water over from the TID, if that's legal, I don't know, that's coming up later in your meeting, then the development costs are already relatively low for this developer. They could put out a proposal with a fraction of the houses, I believe, and still make a profit, and the landowner will still make a profit, and the neighbors will have higher public safety, and our infrastructure and our public services will be less overextended. So my first choice is that you deny. My second choice is that you ask, you know, we do our due diligence in asking the developers to do their due diligence so that we can make a decision later. So the new traffic study, as they said, I guess maybe they're doing soil borings today so they can tell us, can they sink 142 basements into very wet soil? Can they manage to deal with the drainage tiles? Get verification from West Shore Pipeline that the buffer zone and the access, there's a perimeter of houses designed to, you know, right in front of that pipe, that they're going to have access to that pipe if there's needs repair or maintenance, as well as the power line, verification from American Transmission Company that they're going to have access to work on those power lines. Give us a more detailed stormwater runoff plan. That's huge. All the land is wet. It's surrounded by over 100 acres of conservation wetland. So, and there's water draining from the golf course across that property. So someone told me it'd be an engineering miracle to be able to process all that stormwater on that property. So we need that. We need that more. We need like 5 things. What else do we need? Oh, also, regarding this single entrance and exit that many people have identified at one point, even the police and the fire department identified it as an issue of concern. So the developer said that they could put this emergency exit in the southeast corner of the property. Well, that's wetland. So if that's the case, then get verification from the Wisconsin DNR and the Army Corps that they can just kind of fill in that wetland for an emergency exit. So that's about 5 things that I would ask you to ask of the developers before you have a vote, unless you care to just turn it down tonight. The answers we got at the Plan Commission, people were really disappointed. They were just way too general. We need really specific verifications, so we're not stuck after the developers leave with nuisance properties and an overwhelmed street and all the other concerns that people have expressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Dana Gint, 9011 West Hawthorne Lane. I'm just coming to speak regarding the Cape Crossing development from a vast experience of dealing with a amendment to the comprehensive master plan to allow a very high density development to be squeezed into an area that it should not have been placed, and the creation of a PDD that allows the developer to create their own plans and wishes, and the city constantly accommodates them. Obviously, Ryan Road is already a very congested road, so that should be of concern to people. And the comprehensive master plan was created to be followed to not only protect the community, but the citizens in it. And so in the packet itself, there's a comment about the police department and the fire department that the area is poorly served by existing fire station locations and staffing. Response times for effective response force for fire and EMS calls for service and emergency incident types will likely exceed accepted industry standards. That should be a concern for the city of Franklin, that if they approve this development and have been warned by many citizens that they have concerns about the safety of only having one entrance point and the congestion on Ryan Road, that this is obviously an ongoing concern. Instead of accommodating the developer with all their wish lists, the city should do a better job making demands of developers and listening to the citizens that are the most impacted. And the cost of the infrastructure and the emergency services should be evaluated and disclosed to citizens before this is voted on. I appreciate your assistance in not approving this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ginn. Anybody else?
Marcelino Rivera, 5536 West Allward Drive. Since Spider-Man just came out this past weekend, I just want to start off with a quote by saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Moving on, I'm here to address and speak to item G2 and ask that you guys vote against this or just not move forward with it at all. I want to talk about all of the people that are here and the 36,000 people of the city that each of you has a responsibility to. And our great city of Franklin has a lot to celebrate, and we celebrate the quality of life with our motto. And the word quality is something that is not to be taken lightly. And it's something that I know quite a bit about from my travels across this great nation of ours, working as a consultant and providing quality services that focused on the quality of patient care that came out of a lab. Now, when it comes to a quality process is something that considers input, it considers regulations, rules, and not just disregarding any of those things. A quality process is one that is open communication and transparent, not something that is based upon conversations that take place behind closed doors or offline, away from the sight of the citizens who are impacted. A quality process is something that considers the impact not only now, but also in the future. When we talk about celebrating the quality of life, we're talking about the citizens that are here in this city now and the ones that are to come in the future. And this is something that addresses potential future citizens. So these potential future citizens that are gonna buy these homes we're really putting them at risk. We're putting them in harm's way if we go ahead and approve this project the way that it is now. It's not to say that this project or something similar can't move forward, but when we were at the Planning Commission and the developer said that they weren't open, they didn't want another entrance or exit way, that's not consistent with the quality process. That's not consistent with our city's motto. That's not consistent with the value and the luxury that we have of the land and the opportunity for developers to build something special not just something that's rushed and not thought through. Or it's not consider the impacts of the citizens that are behind me now, the citizens that are watching, or the citizens that will be potentially impacted in the future. Each of you has a responsibility to the city's motto that you swore and pledged to. Mayor Olson, you said that you swore an oath to protect the citizens of this city. And you need to follow through with that, as well as the rest of all of you, in consideration of your vote and how you vote on item G2. So it's up to you to consider our city's motto, where we go from here, and what the outcome will be. I don't want to talk too much about what other people have shared, but I also just want to supplement it. I'm gonna just say that a quality process is not one that, as I said earlier, disregards the rules, regulations, policies, or the order of procedure that a plan commission has. But that's what happened at the plan commission about this development, which is why I'm shocked that it's even here before us. I'm just going to go through the order of procedure. Should be the mayor shall state the nature of the case. The department reads the official notice and briefly introduces the development case. The applicant shall make a presentation. Commission members may question the applicant about the case. Department may question applicant about the case. And then here we get to public comments. Do you see all the other stuff that was left out at the Plan Commission prior to the public commentary? You may have to go back and look at the record. But so then it goes to G, which is the applicant response to comments. Then it goes to H, which is the commission discussion, direction, and motion. So a quality process is not one that goes against the policy and the order of procedure for a plan commission, especially when it's something that, as I have stated multiple times, impacts the citizens currently and the ones in the future. I'm going to share another item that I have from an open records request, and this is from Aaron Hertzberg, Director of Economic Development for the City of Franklin, and it's talking about this property, this area over here, and it talks about how, what does he say? There remains a question about how much residential can be built out there because of a high water table. Houses in Wisconsin need basements. That's not really an issue for industrial development. So again, against a quality process is one that considers all of these factors. Okay, you've heard from multiple people, a plan commissioner that has stated that the water table is too high, and quantity. Again, we're talking about quantity of homes. He didn't say anything about density, actually. He said something about the quantity of homes and the number of occupants that would be in there, the number of vehicles that would be coming in and out. But the cliche is, the common cliche is, you know, that it should be quality over quantity. And here we're talking about a high quantity of homes that are just kind of jammed in there. And I won't go on too much further, but I just want to say that with the high quantity of homes, even though there are setbacks for the wetlands, you're talking about impacting something that if you have a cup of water, you add ice to it, you're going to see that water in the cup, that water level rise. So if you jam a bunch of homes into essentially a big bowl of water with basements, you're either going to have flooding basements, or else you're going to have that water table rise. And then you're concerned, where's the concern for runoff? Where's the concern for the safety of the wetlands that may have a setback? But again, we're talking about the impact. None of this stuff has been considered. And when we're talking about quality of life, something that we celebrate in our city's motto, those aspects need to be considered. So it's up to you to live up to your responsibilities to these citizens now and in the future, and be the superhero and vote no against this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Greil. I'm representing Mr. Dahlman, the owner of the golf course just to the west of the development. These other people talked about the groundwater. I'd like to talk about the surface water. Over beyond the golf course, Highway 00, all the water from Ryan Road heads to the north, and farther up, it heads to the south. The farmland to the west of 00 all sheds down this way. There's 2 properties that is part of the watershed. Now, when you get a big rain, I don't know what, I wasn't at the planning board meeting, but the storage system of the surface water, your drainage has to be enormous if you're going to take the neighbor's water and all the water from the roofs and sidewalks and as part of the development, you got so much surface water. I don't know what kind of structure they have, but it's just going to be enormous. So as far as Mr. Dahlman is concerned, he's much against you folks voting for this development as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Groark, 7971 Chapel Hill Court South. So I've been out talking to people in my neighborhood in Mission Hills, and the talk came to how we've been changing the plot size for Franklin homes, and how people in my neighborhood, we have like a 0.3 acre house, like plot, and our house is about 2,000 square feet. So it doesn't overtake our land. So we have a decent back lawn, like yard area, homes in the area about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, and we have all around maybe 0.25 up to, a third acre. So my issue is if we're going to have high density housing, we should probably be asking all of our citizens, because all of our citizens are not happy about us reducing the sizes of our homes. And it's not just about living on the west side of the Franklin, it's about everywhere. And I just was online looking at First Weber to see what kind of was the actual size of most homes and properties in Franklin. And we're looking at 0.27 at a 16,000 or 1,600 square foot house. So if we keep building massive houses on small property land, the whole idea of adding ice to water, that's all going to happen. Where is that runoff going to go? That's what's going to happen. It's also not going to look right in Franklin. Like, we have these size houses. They're appropriate size houses for the plots. Like, if we're going to start adding these ginormous big houses on smaller lots, then yes, we are going to be another Wauwatosa. And I'm not sure that's why people move to Franklin. I know that's not why I moved to Franklin.
Thank you. Representative Skronsky, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm here to represent, I guess, 2 factors. One, as the state representative of the area, I'm here to state the case of no to the development, which the constituents have been calling my office. It is poorly planned. It is too concentrated for the property that's there and the conditions of the land. There will be troubles from there. The entrances are in and out. And I do have some knowledge and professional input, seeing I sat on the plan commission for many years. So that is not the area. They have that density on that subdivision in that area. So do your diligence, vote no on this, have some reconsideration of a much more open subdivision in there. I'm not against the subdivision, but I'm against the density that is trying to be put into that piece of property and the access of the vehicles and the people getting in on it. That road is not a very acceptable road for the amount of traffic that's going to be there. You've got school buses going in there. You've got trucks that go through there. And to put, for the 141 buildings that are in there, that's two times for cars. You're going to have double cars on every one of these houses. That's 284 plus. So please vote no on it. Take a look at it. Open it up. Make it much more acceptable to our country living and the city of Franklin. Thank you.
Representative, can you give us your address for the record, please?
8642 South 116th Street.
Thank you.
I'm right around the corner, so I know that area very well. And from my past experience of serving citizens of this community, which I still do, I know it very well. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else? See no one else rise, I'll close the public comment period. With that, we move on to the approval of the regular meeting minutes of the Common Council meeting of December the 7th. Any additions or corrections? Barber and Holfer. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no public hearings tonight. We have one piece of organizational business in your packet. There's a substantial list of proposed electors for appointment. Any wish for separate action on any of the proposed electors? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Mayor and Barber, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Holford.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. I had to look at the absent thing. Took for granted everybody's here, and I was right. Next item on the agenda is G1, the confirmation of the appointment of Brian Tomczak. See, when we talked, I knew I was going to get it wrong. I got a 50-50 shot. As Director of Finance and Treasurer, Madam Director of Administration.
Thanks, Mayor. We're happy to welcome Brian Tomczak. The mayor and I are recommending that the council appoint him as the Director of Finance and Treasurer. Brian comes to us with a lot of experience from his strong accounting background. He has worked for both Commissar and CLA, Clifton Larson Allen, for the past 18 years. Holds a designation of Certified Public Accountant in the state of Wisconsin, and Brian would like to tell us a little bit more about him.
It was exciting to sit here and listen to all the comments from the citizens. As Peggy noted, I've had 18 years of public accounting experience and have learned a lot technically and a lot for my soft skills for that. And I've learned how to work with people. I've learned how to work with a wide number of clients that have all different kinds of concerns. I've learned how to work and really quarterback a lot of these different situations. And what really stuck out to me over the last half hour listening to the citizens is that I wasn't really doing public accounting. This is going to be the real public accounting and serving the citizens of this community. And that, I think, is what really energizes me, is being able to really support all of you as well as the department heads and work together to make sure that we're really hitting the goals of what the citizens of the community want. My 4-year-old, as I was explaining to her today that I was up for the treasurer for the city of Franklin, she asked me if I get to find treasure. Unfortunately, I told her no, and she said, you get to tell people how to find treasure. And I think that is probably more true And, you know, as a 4-year-old, it really gave me a different perspective to hear that from her. So I'm really looking forward to, if I get approved here, to work with all of you and find treasure.
Thanks, Brian. Questions for the council? Commissioner Alderman Nelson.
Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
As a lifelong resident of our fine city, it's important that we do protect our assets. The way in which we spend the taxpayers' money is extremely important. One of the things that your predecessor did was he was very good at explaining, and I'm a novice. I hate math. I hate finance. And I kind of want to get to the end result and number. And Paul Rotzenberg was wonderful. And I look forward to having a working relationship with you because I'm unfortunately still in finance unless something changes next year.
I can appreciate that.
But no, what I'm saying is there's so many intricacies that you're, you know, having to be aware of and having to bring to the table, and serving our citizens is very important, and we do get a lot of questions about things that are budget related, and the timely response in those, because if we can't, when they call us, we want to get back to them quick, and so it is a challenge, but welcome.
Thank you.
I do put people on commissions on purpose. Commissioner, geez, now you got me on this commissioner thing. Alderwoman Hanneman and then Alderman Barber.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to welcome you. I also am a member of the city's Finance Commission. Unlike Alderman Nelson, I love that appointment. I love the numbers of the budget. So, you know, I look forward to working with you should we confirm you this evening. And thank you for choosing Franklin.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Does your family understand the hours you're going to have to put in and the late nights? And
Yes.
trying to explain things to us, it will take time.
Yes, sir.
Are you
And moving from public accounting, they understood the hours already. So hopefully they will continue to understand.
And we will put demands on you that you haven't had probably in the past.
I can understand that too and appreciate that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Alderman Mack.
In case you haven't gathered, you're going to have to bring a lot of pictures.
No.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Stayed there until I started going to school I went to Parkside for a couple of years as I was navigating kind of what I wanted to do. Then I transferred up to UWM because they have a great accounting program and I have had great success with that. From there, when I graduated in 2005, I moved a little bit all over the place, still in the Milwaukee area. Started working at, as Peggy had mentioned, Commissar Brady as an intern there, and enjoyed it so much that I asked them, you know, to apply for a full-time job. And over that period before we merged with CLA, so I've been with the same group for the last 18 years, where I've gone from a 50-person accounting firm to the 8th largest accounting firm in the United States, and all the experience that provided for me as well. I currently live in Muskego. I am as close to Franklin as you can get in Muskego. My kids love going to the Franklin Library. I have a number of relatives that live in Franklin. You know, very proud of the Franklin football team for winning state. My nephew played as the running back some time ago. And honestly, I'm invested in this community. I attend church at Southbrook Church in Franklin. Jonathan Messerian is here. I think some of you know him. And just being involved in the community is something that I'm looking forward to.
Great. And one daughter? You mentioned more than one.
Yeah, so I have, this is fun. So we have a 6-year-old and soon 2-to-be 5-year-olds, twins, boy, girl. So
Congratulations and welcome.
thank you.
Alderman Hofer. I'm sorry, Alderman Wilhelm is first.
I'm sorry. Well, I just want to say welcome, and I appreciated Paul Rotzenberg's input and his knowledge. And although I appreciated him, I am looking forward to and open to a fresh perspective and also an independent perspective. So if you keep those two things in mind, I think that would be really helpful for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And one other thing I can say too, in working with clients, my clients hired us because they didn't go to school for accounting, and being able to explain those numbers to people that have had financial backgrounds and people that don't have financial backgrounds, that has been a significant part of my role over the last 18 years. And I can very much, very happy to continue working through them.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate the answers that you've given here tonight. I also look forward to working with you, and if there are no more questions, I would move to approve the nomination, the appointment.
Moved by Alderman Holfer, seconded by Alderman Barber. Madam, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderman Barber. Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderman Hopfer.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll mark it unanimous. 6 ayes, no noes, no abstentions. For the record, I was going to go back and ask for a roll call afterwards, but this is the right way.
Good night again.
Before we clap for you, introduce your lovely bride.
It's my wife, Katie. We've been married, got married by this young man sitting next to her. So we've been married since 2013, and just look forward to this next chapter in our lives.
Well, if Jonathan did the deed, then it's going to stick. Madam Clerk.
I don't know if you said motion carried, but.
I did.
Okay. I just want to welcome you, and I wanted to make sure that Peggy made it clear that you would be handling all elections.
Other duties as assigned.
Yeah, that falls in that other duties that may be assigned.
Understood.
Brian will join us on the 4th.
Officially, December 31st, first day active at work will be January 3rd. So.
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to G2, which is an ordinance to create section 15-30445 of the Unified Development Ordinance, establishing a PDD for Cape Crossing. Mr. Eddy, are you doing this? And perhaps it would be good if the applicants joined us. We get some of these questions answered again. Mr. DeClean, good evening. Good evening, Brian. Somebody pick a name and address.
My name is Steve DeClean. I'm with Newman Developments at North 27 West 24025 Paul Court in Pewaukee, Wisconsin.
Brian?
Brian Lindgren, Newman Developments, same address.
So you heard a whole bunch of comments this evening, and some of them probably weigh heavy on the aldermen's minds. Some of us have heard the answers prior, but now is your opportunity to get to the other four, actually, aldermen.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate the time that has been put in thus far by the Plan Commission and the council, and the opportunity to respond to the comments. We take them very serious as well. They're valid concerns. They're concerns of any neighborhood that we develop. We want to be respectful of the master plan of a municipality. We want to be respectful of the neighbors and design a plan that we feel is to the benefit of not just the current residents, but future residents. Provide something that we think will be a great asset to the community for the long haul. So in doing so, we start by looking at comprehensive plans. A comprehensive plan for this area called for residential. So residential is what we presented. It's been several months now, but we brought forward a concept plan that had quite a few more units. It was over 180 units. We took the feedback that we got from that discussion and we scaled it back. And we scaled it back to the 142 units that you see today. Looking at the overall economics of the development of housing product, of the needs of for housing in the city,
we settled on the two different sizes. There is absolutely demand for a smaller lot, smaller home sizes, to move into the neighborhood at a price point that it would be more affordable than a lot of current new homes being built. In the mid 400s is where we'd like to present those villas home. A very nice home built by some very, very good builders that are partners of ours. The estates would be similar to much of the new homes that are being built currently. Those would be in the 500s. In planning the neighborhood, we look beyond the economics, and then we start to dig into the specifics of how it can work. So we look at access points and entrances, road layouts, flows of traffic, and both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. And that's how we come up with the designs that we do. Yes, we did settle on the dual boulevard entrance that we did and the location that we did. We didn't do that solely on our own devices. We consulted with the fire department. We consulted with the police department. We consulted with a traffic engineer who went out and studied and counted traffic and investigated the intersections. They've got ways of doing that beyond things that I understand, but they come up with a lengthy report that was included talking about the arterial nature of Ryan Road and how the traffic that is there is meant to connect between two even busier streets. This is true. The boulevard design was placed at the high point of the road. That's for safety. That's so that when people come and go from the new neighborhood, they can see the traffic that's coming on Ryan Road and people can see them as well. The emergency access was proposed just in the extremely rare occurrence that entrance might be blocked. It would be rare, but if it was, you have a secondary access that would come in. Once you're through the entrance, there's 2 points to everywhere in the community. So we're very comfortable, as is after talking to fire and police, with the design that was presented. As far as getting into some of the further investigations that you do when you develop a neighborhood, we start to talk about soil composition and groundwater and things of that nature. Those are generally steps that you would take further down the line as you get into engineering. These are steps that we're advancing right now to make sure that we know what's there. Soil maps exist and are really amazingly accurate. I don't know how they do it, but that's what we go off of. As mentioned in the Plan Commission, there's types of classifications of soil. They call them hydric, non-hydric, hydric inclusions, and so on. It gets into far more detail than that. There are neighborhoods, buildings, houses, roads, and everything you can imagine built on these soils throughout Franklin, throughout southeast Wisconsin for that matter, because they are prevalent, common. They require the proper planning, which has been done successfully all over the city. Part of what was going on today was soil testing, soil borings. Those soil borings further help to understand the classifications of soils, how they'll interact with stormwater when that time comes, and so on. So stormwater management, the laws that govern stormwater management have changed drastically over the last decade. We have to count for all the rain that flows on the property and flows off, coming off of rooftops and roads. So we develop master grading plans. Master grading plan has been submitted for review that shows swales and pre-treatment and storage capacity, all things that engineers spend a lot of time to figure out. Our engineers here today that can help answer specific questions, because these are steps that you take in proper planning of development that we wouldn't move forward if we weren't comfortable. We rely on the experts to review those. We rely on the engineers with the city of Franklin to review that. The DNR gets a crack at it. So by the time it comes to development, those things are thoroughly vetted. As far as hopefully that responds to some of the common concerns that have came up. We're here to answer questions. We're really excited about the development. We think it'd be absolutely a great fit for the city of Franklin, providing a variety of housing in a really well thought out neighborhood, preserving natural areas and so on.
Oh, there you go. Alderman Nelson.
Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for coming. I know we've spoken a few times on this, and over my tenure up here, we've spoken and worked on a few projects, and I thank you for that. I think every time you've been a reasonable applicant in making the changes and listening to the concerns and the views of the people that were affected. One of the things, and I know I wrote 10 points down, we've spoken about a few of them, and also looking into more detail, because I was not at the Plan Commission meeting on this, on plan. However, I did speak with one of the commissioners in great detail about some of my concerns. And I think where we're at with this, and gentlemen just kind of mentioned it, about listening to the experts and listening to the concerns before you're basically coming to a final decision. And with that, I'd like to just reference page number 9 in the packet here, which has got staff recommendations listed. And at a minimum, before this would go forward to get my support, I wish to have all those 4 concerns dealt with and met. And if there's any questions, I'm sure our staff members here, either planning or engineering, can go over those.
Excuse me, John, that's page 40 in the packet.
Oh, page 40, and yeah, the main.
Yeah, it's 9, but it's also 40. It's a.
Thank you. Total control, sir. So with those 4 points, and I don't want to read them out, but I can if somebody wants to. I mean, if you want to just address them,
Yeah.
or however, in addition, if you could explain, because there is a, I don't want to use the term fear factor, but I kind of will, with when these things change to a PDD from original. I mean, right now it's zoned R3. If you stayed consistent with the current zoning at R3, I think you wouldn't hear 3/4 of the concerns here. I do have a concern about the traffic study, the timing of it. I live on North Cape, on that other end of North Cape. I know that with all that traffic that was diverted, the construction project, it was greatly reduced. Mr. Belzerowski made mention of that. I want to make sure that we've got everything forward. We're not rushing anything. It's the middle of December. Okay, I don't want to hammer. I understand there was some soil samples. We're going to touch on that, or unless somebody was, loitering or trespassing and just coring for the hell of it. I don't know, but I would like to find out a little bit of something about that. But if we could, please, as the mayor wonderfully called out, page 40, those 4 points, because that was our staff recommendation, was initially to not recommend it. However, if these were dealt with, and Heath, if this is something that you authored, please feel free, or whoever did, but I would like to see these 4 talked about, please.
Before you do that, let me finish with what Alderman Nelson started. As he correctly noted, the staff their original recommendation is to deny. However, the language, however, is, however, city department staff would recommend approval of this planned development district subject to the conditions set forth in the draft ordinance, which in essence includes solutions to the 4 items that Alderman Nelson just listed. So
yes, sir.
I just wanted to be clear about that. Mr. Lindgren?
Actually, so if I could take the four items in the report, and we talked about them at length at the planning commission. So number 1 is a really great topic to discuss, and that is we are looking for the single point of access. And when I say a single point of access,
say what item 1 is.
Item 1 is in the case that wetland W4 is deemed exempt from state and federal wetland regulations, the applicant should include a second access point to Ryan Road as part of the preliminary plat. That's the planner's recommendation, is to have 2 ways in and out in the development from Ryan. Our solution to that is to have 2 ways in and out, but rather do it through a boulevard entrance. So the details of that entrance are, the entrance is an 80-foot wide right-of-way, which there's typically a 60-foot wide right-of-way. There's a dividing island between the 2, and then there's 2 roads that are each 24 feet wide going into and out of the neighborhood. So in other words, each road could fit 2 cars wide in and out. So in talking to the fire and the police chief, they felt comfortable that in the event of an emergency, if there was a blockage, you could use the other side of the boulevard to get in and out of the intersection. It's done quite a bit. It's actually a lot of space. 24-foot wide is, I think the typical street is 28 feet wide. So I mean, it's practically a 2-road street, and now we're going to have 2 of them going in and out. So that was our solution to number 1 in this report.
And there's an email from the police department in the packet that says they're okay with that.
Yes, and that condition was removed at the recommendation of the Plan Commission.
The second item was there's a drainage easement along the west property line should include landscape screening between lots 6 and 15, as long as it's acceptable to the engineering department. There's 6 through
6
15.
through 15,
6
not
through
6 and 15.
Correct.
So 6 through 15.
Yep. As long as it is acceptable to the engineering department. The applicant should submit a landscape plan for this area with the preliminary plat, and that's something we intend to comply with. Number 3, the applicant should submit written approval from the holder of the 15-foot West Shore pipeline easement as a requirement for the grading plan associated with the preliminary plat. That was changed to final plat. That recommendation from the Plan Commission was to change that to final plat. West Shore Pipeline doesn't generally address issues like this far ahead. So we're doing some potholing out there today too. So we were doing some investigations out there today. That was another reason for being on site. And we intend to get West Shore sign off on that in the next few months. And we wouldn't expect to move forward without that approval. I should mention we do have pipelines running through 3 of our neighborhoods right now. And they're not on the edge like they are at this one. They actually go right through the middle. There's one in Port Washington, there's one in Germantown, and then there's one in New Berlin. So this is a pretty common thing. We've dealt specifically with West Shore before. And it's important to note too, the pipeline will not be on any lots. So there will be no lots that actually have the pipeline on them. But this is something that comes up pretty often in the course of a pipeline. One thing we wanted to know today was how deep it was. It's about 5 feet deep. So I mean, this is a really deep, big gas line that's going to be off everybody's lot.
A representative from West Shore Pipeline was on site today. So.
Lastly, the applicant shall increase the width of the landscape buffer yard easement from 15 feet to 25 feet between lots 22 through 24. This change shall be depicted. That was actually a misread from the planner, and they waived that requirement at the Plan Commission. So, I mean, I think that the things really to talk about in here as far as these 4, the only one that I do think the one-way in and out is really worth a really good conversation here if people are uncomfortable with that. The rest of these, there was nothing contentious in these.
Well, what are your views about the traffic study? I mean, I'll tell you right now, you know, looking at the dates and everything like this, and again, I understand we're steamrolling forward here, but I want to make sure that we've got everything covered. This isn't going anywhere. Land's been there forever. Let's make sure we got everything straight. I understand the concerns about the density, and if it was currently under R3, and if you want to explain how that works, because there's a math wizardry in there that I think we need to
Can
put
I do
out
that
there.
one right away? So,
Please.
So right now, the comp plan calls for R3 zoning. Regulo's right up on this, kind of did some math to show that if we stuck with the R3 zoning, it would call for, he says, the maximum gross density at 144 units.
Under the current
Under the
R3 zoning.
current R3 zoning, yeah. What we have is 142 units. So, I mean, as far as the comp plan goes and the zoning currently allows, we're not pushing those boundaries. What we've done is we've done what a lot of subdivisions across the country are doing right now, and that is we're pulling some of the areas off the edges. We're creating shared living spaces. That's what you see up north with, we're going to do a dog park up there. We're creating the pool. So you're kind of just seeing the lots getting smaller because that's what we're hearing from buyers. People want less yard to maintain. And we're pulling those areas out of there, and then we're making them common areas where people can share them. It's happening a lot right now. So we're not the bottom line is we're not asking for density beyond your comp plan and beyond the zoning that's currently contemplated. We're just reconfiguring the way we're arranging those lots.
We're going to talk about basically where are you with this whole stormwater runoff plan?
I got my good friend Tony Zanin here to talk about that. So Tony's our engineer. We've been working with him forever. Tony did Ryanwood Manor and Park Circle, which were prior Newman developments that we love them. They're in Franklin. Tony worked on all those, and he's been around Franklin for a long time.
Well, I'm sorry, before we get to Tony, if we can just go back to one thing, because I don't want to take Tony's thunder. I want a whole wind up here again, if you don't mind. But as far as the traffic study goes, I have a few concerns with, I'd like to keep with the current R3 zoning, and because I have cautions with PDDs. I would also like to see a new traffic study done, one that's going to show more relevant and traffic flow, because it just as the neighbor's saying, there are no, when you're on that road, it's very, very, you get the 2-foot little, you don't have big shoulders, you don't have anything there for vehicles to go. It's a shortcut that the Muskego people take not to mess with our new finance director, but that's that group from Champions Village. They drive it like they stole it. But what I'd like to see happen is a new traffic study done. I don't want to rush this through. I'd like to table it until some of these things are met. But before we get to, so what's your thoughts on the
So
traffic?
here's my thought on it. We're happy to do a new traffic study. Tonight's the first time I ever heard that there was a road closure that people thought might have affected the traffic counts. What's that?
The traffic closure is addressed in the study.
Okay.
It's a lengthy study, and these traffic engineers, they take into account full capacity, reduced capacity situations, and so on. They classify levels of service, and the findings. I only printed the summary page because it's so long, but the findings conclude that the intersections and roadway are not near the capacity they were originally designed for. I think that's an important. I'll be happy to consult with the traffic engineer, and I think they'd provide an addendum as necessary to say that, but if it helps, we'll get them to look at it.
Okay, and additionally, so would you be fine with keeping it as the current R3 zoning and not looking to move it to anything but, and just keeping it what we currently have?
No, we would prefer.
And that's what I want you to
Yeah.
explain. I kind of set you with a softball with that one.
Yeah, we prefer the PD. We think that this is answering what people want today. They want shared amenities, and they want shared space, and they want smaller lots. They want smaller lots, and they want in some cases, smaller houses on them. People aren't looking, one of the speakers today did a great job explaining these huge houses on these small lots. That's not what we intend to do. If you want a huge lot, you'll build it to the estates lots to the north. These homes are meant to be 1,800 to 2,200 square feet, more modest in size, the mid fours touching 500,000. But really it's meant to feel like a little bit like that older neighborhood that a lot of people grew up in.
Thank you.
Okay.
We ready for Tony?
Sure. Hi. Tony Zanin, Pinnacle Engineering Group, 20725 Watertown Road, Brookfield. As Steve had said, I think when they came to Plan Commission, there was a number of things that had come out of that meeting. They had turned to me and said, kind of get going and start looking at things probably a little bit earlier than we typically do at a rezone stage. And in actuality, I've already put together a master grading plan and a preliminary stormwater report. So I've analyzed the site, and there's a lot of commentary tonight about the different soils. There are soils on site that are listed as hydric and hydric inclusions, and those are kind of precursors. When we see that, the first thing we do is we go out and get wetland delineations, because that's one of the telltale signs of potential wetland. And the wetland delineation was done some time ago in 2017, December of 2017. It was concurred with the DNR, and we're staying away from the wetlands. There are a number of them located on the concept plan. You can see that. in looking at the drainage, there is a number of areas that come from off-site and filter through our site. And there's a large wetland kind of in the center of the site, which discharges easterly. And I don't want to get too technical, and if I do, just please cut me off. I just love what I do, so sometimes that's what happens. But in any event, we have, as they said, the way they're designing it, we have roughly 37% of the site is open space. And what that is we're just, as Steve had said, they're pulling the lots closer together. So creating this open space of the site itself, we're approximately 8% of the site is going to be set aside for stormwater management. I'll just hold this up, just kind of highlight the pink areas on this map, and I'll turn it around to the audience.
Well, we can put it, we have the magic camera working?
So the pink areas on the site are going to be stormwater management. And that's, again, roughly about 8% of the site. And I did throw some flow areas, and I apologize, it's so small, but
You are taking care of the golf course water, aren't you?
coming through our site, we
Yeah.
are.
From Muskego to your site, yes.
Correct, correct. So
Got to make sure you take care of the Muskego water.
in my world, it doesn't matter where it comes from, but we've got to address it. So on the concept plan, you'll see a lot of different outlots, and those outlots are really designated to get water. We've looked at drainage patterns, and we've put outlots in so we can bring water through, not on people's properties, but through these common elements that Steve is talking about, and that directs it to the stormwater ponds that are highlighted in pink. All of our overflows, so we'll get into, technically, we'll talk different storm events, but the 100-year storm event is kind of the top storm event we look at. We've done overland overflow, so anywhere that there's a low point in the road, we have an outlet touching it. So if the water would build up, we're going to size inlets for the 100-year storm. We're going to size piping for the 100-year storm. Overflows are going to be directed to these pink areas. The pink areas are, a number of them are interconnected, so as one fills up, it'll spill into the next one, ultimately discharging to the east, kind of the center of the property as it does today. MMSD, City of Franklin, DNR, Wisconsin DNR, all have stormwater requirements. MMSD is more stringent than the city in some manner. The city is more stringent in other manners. In general terms, the flows that are leaving the site today compared to what we're going to leave in the future based on our analysis to this point are going to be reduced by roughly 55%. So we're reducing the flow leaving the site by a large amount because of the stormwater requirements that are implemented, that we have to meet from those different agencies. When you talk about volume, MMSD, there's the way you look at calculations, you have to look at a volume during what they call a critical time period. And in that time period, we have to reduce the volume of water leaving the site. And then that, for our case, based on my calculations, MMSD, we look at 2-year and 100-year storm are the two events. 2-year storm, we're reducing the volume by 33%, and the 100-year storm, we're reducing it by 15%. So we're going to meet all the stormwater requirements. Again, we've done a lot of this up front. The city hasn't reviewed it. It's into the city. DNR will review it. Ultimately, once Franklin is comfortable with the analysis, they send it to MMSD. MMSD has to approve it. So we have 3 layers of approval through the stormwater. Surface water, we've got a number of areas that are going to have field inlets. So you'll have storm sewer in the rear yards picking up drainage. We've got slopes, minimum slopes are 1%. We're trying to, preferred are 2%. We're trying to do the 2%. We'll have at least 1% throughout the site. We've done quite a bit stormwater wise, as far as there was some questions of groundwater and we're going to have all of these different field inlets throughout the site that's going to pick up the surface water, where today the water drains and just sits in any kettle low area that's out there. The water just sits and infiltrates into the ground. We're going to pick it up and take it to our stormwater features. So I guess generally I just want to, we have our arms around the stormwater. Today's borings were important for what not only analysis of what's out there, but we need those as stormwater. So if somebody was walking around on the site while this was going, you would see borings within the road. We're trying to determine what's happening in the road, but we also have 2 to 3 borings in every pink area on this map, so we can understand what's happening stormwater-wise in those areas to make sure any assumptions in the calculations that have been made, which is that's the starting point, that those assumptions are verified. I do want to just while I have the microphone, I guess there was a couple of things. You talked a little bit about the West Shore pipeline, and somebody brought up the ATC lines. I do want to say the ATC is on the far east side of the property, just adjacent to that, again on the east side, but west of the ATC is the gas line. The master grading plan, again, the city hasn't looked at it, but we have not proposed any grading, earth moving activities along either of those easements. Everything that we're going to do is outside the easement. We did pothole the ATC line. I talked to the ATC gentleman, my surveyors met them today. We did pothole it so we know where it is. The only area that we may work near it, but again, not over it, is the access from in the southeast corner across Outlot 4 to get a trail, that potential access to the trailhead. And then we need to get water main to our site. And I believe water main will be in Ryan. We may bring it up in that southeast corner through that Outlot 4 to get it into our site. So we'll be adjacent to it. Again, at this point, on the plans that we've submitted, you'll see we have not proposed any work in the easement area of either the ATC or the gas line. So I just want to kind of point that out. Actually, I think that's all I had. But if anybody has any questions, I certainly can.
Just a couple of follow-ups here. So admittedly, we're still waiting on a master grading plan, some other tests, some other reviews. You've got a number of other entities that are still looking at plans, which I think need to have that information back, reviewed by our staff. Then we should be at this point.
We're not waiting for anything that typically would hold up a zoning. The things we're talking about right now are final plat approval and construction drawing related. You've never, Ryan Wood Matter, for instance, you would have never thought that those are the sorts of details that would come together at this point in the process.
And I agree with that statement. However, that's apples to oranges with the amount of houses to be put in here. And I think I'm just have that uncomfortable feeling with this many moving parts that I'd like to kind of corral the cats, so to speak, for a minute. But I'd also like to put Mr. Eady our planning director, on the hot seat for a minute, or because he's up here and he's close, he's within arm's length almost, about his views on this project and concerns and whatnot moving forward.
Is there a specific question you want me to answer? Plan Commission recommended approval. Plan Commission recommended approval after we deleted condition number 4 and Plan Commission removed condition number 1. To the extent that those kinds of studies should be in place, they're typically done after rezonings. There's nothing in the rezoning requirements for PDDs that requires that you have to have all these studies done up front, with the exception of the traffic study, because the road is ours. If this had been on a county or a state road, they would have done the same thing. They would have required a justification of the traffic for access to those roads. So that kind of thing holds true. The roadway access was adjusted after staff went out to the property. So that one thing did change. The original access was actually below where the grade goes up on the road. It was actually somewhere in between the top and the bottom. So after staff went out and looked at it, then we asked the assistant city engineer to go out and verify. And we both talked to Brian about, you probably should move that access either east or west so that you have the correct site distance. So that part was adjusted. Um, I don't really have anything else to add.
Then I'll go to our city engineer who's on plan and get his input.
Before you do that, Mr. Morrow, the reason I keep turning your microphone off is so the camera can go on these guys. That's why I asked you to push it on again.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
I didn't think anybody remembered that, so I can refresh you.
To answer your question, I'm very comfortable with the outlets that's been shown here. So during Plan Commission, I did try to take notes of, there were several comments from the neighbors as to various issues with the road and sewer and water and stormwater and so forth. And I think at least I tried to address each one of them. I felt comfortable with every issue. I don't recall the issue of South North Cape being closed at the time, but if indeed they were discussed that in the other pages, if they took that into account, you can see on your, I just had it. If you look on page 115, it's page 5 of the TADDY report. And TADDY, by the way, is a very reputable firm that we use for a lot of our traffic engineering studies. The only intersection that has some concern would be the one at South North Cape and Ryan. So that's really on the Muskego side, and that's actually for the Muskego folks that this would be a problem. Level of service A, B, C, D, E, F. Don't think of that like school grades. Generally, for residentials, we like to see level D or above.
Glenn, before you move on.
Sure.
For those of you who may be looking at this document and not be in the room, these are two charts that list level of service. And this is what the engineers calculate as to what are the 4 different levels that the traffic will operate at each one of these intersections at what period during the day. A being, of course, no impact whatever. D being you can't get through the intersection to save your life. Fair?
Level service F is where it fails. So,
right.
But D, we like to keep the I think you hear a lot of comments that the traffic's going too fast on Ryan Road. In essence, so, adding traffic doesn't necessarily make that a bad thing. It does slow people down. So, but having said that, the only one that gets down to C's and D's are the intersection, east-westbound intersections of the Ryan and North Cape. So if you look at the Loomis, that's is the third row that you see there, Ryan Road and Loomis. Currently, there's level service B's and A's, and then you look at the after construction level service A's and B's. So it still acts acceptably per their studies. As far as sanitary sewer, we do know that there's been sewer odor issues out there. As soon as we can get the Waukesha pipeline through and out of the way, we can implement the third and final phase of eliminating the odor issues that are out there. The only other thing that would make this better is to add more, if you will, fresh sewage, and that's what we're looking forward to with this subdivision. So this is a situation where solution to pollution is dilution. So we've got the Muskego sewers that really go septic by the time they hit it. Franklin line, and the more fresh sewer we can add to it, the better that's going to make that be. So that's an added layer to help the odor issues. It's been discussed, the water main issue. We think we have that solved with the TID water main that's already been planned for the area to serve the property across the road, and we'll discuss that later tonight. Stormwater, like they mentioned, we have not seen the reports yet, but if you rezoned it and they couldn't meet our requirements, they wouldn't be able to develop, or they'd have to redesign to make that work. So it's behooving on them to do enough efforts to not only meet our requirements, which we think are pretty stringent, but then it has to meet MMSD requirements, which are slightly different, but stringent in a different way. And then, of course, the DNR requirements. So it's got to meet quality and quantity through those 3 phases. We agree that I wish the road were wider to allow for pedestrians to walk through. Unfortunately, if you make the road wider, that's just going to make traffic go that much faster. We believe that the pathways that we have planned for the area are going to give folks a place to walk and ride their bicycles in a safe manner. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what else we discussed, but I think I went down through the list of the issues. And so the secondary entrance, I would like a secondary entrance, but I am perfectly okay with what they've shown. The previous proposal, this is our, I want to say, a compromise, and we were all okay with the previous proposal. The idea is that you basically have two entrances side by side. So that's in essence what you're doing when you have the big boulevard situation. We're very excited to see that the corner is still reserved for a trailhead for the 116th Street Trail. It's going to be a nice amenity for the city. And what else am I forgetting?
You still have the floor, Alden.
So, and just as I mentioned at Plan Commission, you know, by the time it does hit this stage, our office has had a chance to work through all of our issues. So it's not uncommon that by the time it does see you, I'm generally okay with everything. That doesn't mean it started out that way, but we are where we are, and I'm pretty okay with it.
Well, I'm still following you on the dilution, pollution. That was brilliant, Glenn. I mean, in 4 years, I'm finally, the light. So
the solution
I love it.
The solution to pollution is dilution.
So I guess one of the things that I understand, I've heard this a couple of times, that we don't normally wait on these reports and reviews and everything else to move forward. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal that I would just feel more comfortable if we were able to get those reviewed by staff once they're complete. Again, gentlemen, we've worked very well in the past, and I don't foresee any issues, but I absolutely, definitely would feel more comfortable with those reports and reviews coming through. I don't need to be lectured about what we did in the past. I could care less. I'm looking at what we do now and in the future. So I'll yield for now.
Alderman Wilhelm, then Alderman Mayor, then Alderman Barber.
Well, I had some other items to bring up until we had all of this conversation, and I started looking at the calculation areas within the ordinance, and it's on page 61 in your packet. And it says that there's 84 acres. I'm going to guess that somebody checked that out. I've seen that in the past not be accurate, but hopefully that is. Step 2, you're supposed to subtract the right-of-ways, the overhead easements. They calculated 7.43. And right-of-ways of major utilities, we don't even know what the water main is yet. I'm going to guess most of that will be in the right-of-way. But I'm wondering if that acreage needs to be adjusted. But what really kind of caught my eye was on page 63 when we talk about the UDO site intensity calculations, and down in step 3, after you adjusted all of these, you end up with the net buildable site area, and they say there's 49.76. Now, the gentleman here who loves his job brought up the pink sheet, and he said that's about 8 acres. So that's 8 acres of this site that aren't subtracted from this net buildable area of 49. And then what blows me away the most is that it says that the net density is 398 dwelling units. And 50 acres with 398 dwelling units sounds like we're going to do less than quarter acre lots on this. Now, I realize that these site calculations aren't exactly what they're proposing, but this is what they're basing off, telling us that they get to have all these lots, and we're no different than the residential R3E. And one of the things that I heard during the citizen comment period that I wanted to correct was one of the residents made a comment about the area between the lots, and he misspoke. He said that there were going to be 15 feet between these lots in the villas, which is the smaller. The actual distance between those lots is 7.5 feet. So when he thought 15 feet was not much between them, it's half of that. Now, I think it's really important for us to go I listened to the Plan Commission tape. I listened to a lot of concerns. I wanted to be sensitive to the concerns that were brought up while looking for the positives for the community on this development, because residential development should go here. It's what we've envisioned. So I turned to what is still supposed to be, we haven't gotten rid of it yet, still our guiding document. And Peggy, could we get a hard copy of the UDO? Because none of us actually have a hard copy of our ordinance we're supposed to be looking at. So I had to get this offline. So the intent of our Unified Development Ordinance, there are A through W, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to point out just a couple of them. R3E in this master plan. The intent of the UDO is to regulate and restrict lot coverage and the size and location of all structures so as to prevent overcrowding and to provide adequate light, air, sanitation, drainage. The next one that is important is to regulate population density and distribution to avoid sprawl and undue concentrations, and to facilitate the provisions of adequate public service utilities. And this is where the police and fire comments came in on that, which is page 39, where they made their comments about they were concerned about police and fire. And obviously we don't even have a water main out here, so the fire department has a justification where the service area is way far out. So there's a reason why we put this in R3E in the master plan. It's because we knew that that was a future area. And the reason why we have a big pipe in the ground with a tablespoon of water in it, and we want to dilute it, is because the pipe came a little too soon. The development is not there. And now we're looking like we got this pipe in the ground with no water. Let's, push the development, which is not what our master plan has been trying to tell us all along for our city. So the other intent is regulate access so as to lessen congestion and promote the safety and efficiency of our streets and highways. And there's all kinds more about natural resources and proper layout and erosion and sediment. Protect the traffic carrying capability of the existing or proposed streets and highways. So I'm not sure we've proven that. And the other thing is the intent of a planned development district. And this is also in our UDO, section 15-3.0401. The general intent of a PDD is derived from to derive the maximum benefit from the coordinated area. I believe they are deriving a maximum benefit, that's for sure. But through site planning, diversified location of structures, and mixed compatible uses that result in the provision of a safe and efficient system for pedestrian and vehicle traffic, attractive recreation, and the location of public and private utilities and community facilities. So I feel like we're a little short on those. We need to add the utilities. There's a community factor that this is distant from the area, and it lacks an effort for pedestrian or traffic systems, although the trail is a really good amenity that does meet that. The second section goes to the intent of what we as a council are supposed to look at with a new PDD. New PDD districts may be permitted by the city if the owner or his agent can prove that the resulting PDD will achieve a better design, identical or lesser intensity land uses, or identical or greater open space ratio, that which is indicated on the adopted City of Franklin Master Plan. So staff has pointed out to us on page 33 that the R3E maximum gross is 1.394 to 1.45. And that is not meeting this lesser or equal or greater intensity or open space ratio. Also, for the net density, it's the same, 1.349, but that goes up to 2. they still don't meet that under our ordinance. Then it says in a little footnote, the Common Council can approve higher density with a community purpose, such as senior living. This isn't a senior living. So I'm all for dense development, and I don't mind small homes. I think it's kind of the way of the future, and I think that's a great design concept. My concept is you're trying to put too many small homes in an area that goes beyond what our 3E ordinance is, and we're trying to justify that by doing a PDD. I've been reading this ordinance for, I think, 22 years. I'm pretty well versed on site intensity calculations and PDD, and several planners have told me, you know, if you could get the city to stop doing PDDs because they are so hard to enforce, and every one of them gets their own rules, and it creates a problem. I am really happy with a conservation subdivision open space ratio or a R3E, although I would prefer the conservation subdivision. I think you could get pretty close to the lots you have sticking with that. But right now, you cannot get my vote on something that goes over what the ordinance says. The new PDD district may be permitted if the owner can prove, and you have not proven. Even staff's write-up says that that has not happened. So I think I have hopefully just one more point. 15-3.0402, conformance with a PDD district with the adopted comprehensive master plan and adopted detailed neighborhood and planning district plans. PDD district shall not be approved by the Common Council under this division except in conformance with the objections of the City of Franklin Comprehensive Master Plan, which we all know that's R3E, Neighborhood Development Planning District Plan, or other elements and components of the City of Franklin Master Plan. This document is still our governing document of the city until we get rid of it, which I know that's in the process. But I think that all of this stuff about, you know, stormwater and, hey, we're going to have that in the future, we need to reverse and go to what the zoning should. And everyone out here that made a comment about too dense, they got it right off the bat. And I think that's where we're at. Bring in a big number, tell us you're compromising, but bring in a number that meets or exceeds R3E, and you've got my vote. And of course, address the things that Alderman wants the district.
So, I mean, I'm a little thrown because I'm reading from Regulo's report. And it says, the property is currently zoned R3 Suburban Estate Single Family Residence District, which allows up to 1.72 dwelling units per acre based on the maximum gross density, 144 units for this property. The proposed minimum lot size is 12,000 square feet for the estates and 9,000 for the villages are below the minimum lot area required, which is 20,000 square feet. And then he goes on to say, according to the I'm sorry, but he says the maximum gross density is 104 units, and then we count up 142 units. So I'm confused by the numbers.
Well, I'm very confused by the numbers because that site intensity calculations with 398 on 49 acres makes no sense in any
Can we
world.
not do a back and forth,
but-
please, Alderwoman?
Well,
I completely agree. I don't know what that number means, and we didn't.
and to answer your question, and because I think, you know, in the Plan Commission, they're allowed to get the back and forth, and I think the council, this is how we resolve things. So I think this is really good. And I like what you do. I'm not saying that. And I like residential, and I think eventually we can get there, but I think the density, you just got to come down just a little bit. So what I was referring to was the section where the council cannot approve a higher density unless there's a community purpose. So if you can prove some kind of community purpose other than you know, we need residential houses or something. It needs to be more like a senior living type of thing, which obviously you're not doing that. But the section says that you have to prove that you have identical or less or intensity land uses and identical or greater open space ratio. So if you go to page 33 in the staff report, the estates nor the villas meet the required lot area for open space divisions in the R3 zoning. Right there, it says that you don't meet R3E. They pointed out, and they pointed out in their charts where they,
You're talking the open space per lot now, not the open space per development, right? That's,
well, there's maximum gross density, which you have 1.83 dwelling units per acre. R3E is 1.39 to 1.45, so you're over on that. Maximum net density is 2.8 dwelling units is what you're proposing, and the R3E is 1.394 to 2. So you're over 8.5 even at the maximum allowed on that. So why don't we just back up and look at these figures, answer the alderman's questions, and try to bring this down so we're not stuffing everything in. And then your traffic concerns are less. Your water concerns are less. Your stormwater management concerns are less. And I think the residents will be a lot happier. And I think the future, I think that will, you know, it'll be a better development. So those are my comments.
Okay. Alderman Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Wilhelm said more than I could begin to say, and I agree with everything she said. This is a period for asking questions of you guys. I have a lot more statements to make, but I think I'll do that for when we actually have a motion, because none of us has talked about the school impact yet, the children, the traffic impact in the development, and so on. I do have one question, but I don't want to give a false hope because I'm not in favor of the plan. Nobody here said a subdivision shouldn't go in here. In fact, everybody believes that a subdivision should go in here, and that's what it's been slated for forever and ever. It's just too many houses, too close together. And it's not, somebody said the country feel of Franklin, I think it was Representative Skoronsky said the country feel of Skoronsky. Why would somebody want to move to the far outskirts of Milwaukee County to the most prime real estate territory left in the entire county to be right next to their neighbor, 15 feet away? Somebody said they could do that in West Dallas or Greenfield or Milwaukee. Yeah, so 0.5. So I have a couple more comments to make, but one question, since we started off with the questions for you guys. The berm or the barrier, Glenn, it was mentioned, one of the 4 items. What kind of a maintenance agreement is in that? It'll meet engineering standards. I'm assuming that's like the berms we've put in other places where we have plantings in it as well. And we've had really bad experience with maintenance of berms. After a couple of years, the plants die and nobody replaces them. Do we have some kind of a maintenance agreement on that? And that's just one minor question. And again, I don't want to give any false hopes here.
I would say we're not to that stage yet. I think that was just a requirement of this stage, that would be
Okay.
developed, so.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Barber.
I also have some concerns that have been raised here tonight. Couple of them are the density issues. I don't, especially in hearing that you could do it with the larger lots. That is possible within your framework, but limiting some of the amenities along the way. That's a concern of mine. We don't have the boring samples. I'd like to see more of that, because one of the major concerns was all the water density and the runoff kind of situation. So there's a lot of things that I'd like some answers on before I would vote to rezone it. I'm not comfortable with it. The traffic is another major issue. I mean, I attended the Planning Commission just to hear this last time. So I was at the Planning Commission and I'm here now. I'm hearing the same concerns that were raised. And I do want to say that this is probably the most respectful kind of response from citizens that I've heard. those are legitimate questions that they're asking, for me anyway, because I've heard them twice, they make sense. I'd like you to take some time to address each of those concerns. There are 5 concerns raised out here earlier today. There's a concern over there for the golf course runoff, kind of things. And that specifically is to say, well, to say that was addressed doesn't answer my concern. I mean, I'd like to see a written response where the citizens can actually understand what you're saying. And then I've done this in the past. When citizens have voiced concerns about issues, I've gone to the developer and I said, can you specifically answer them, for them and for me? And eventually, my thought was that in the past, one of the major issues was that it should go forward. But the idea that there's all these concerns, they're legitimate, the audience has been here, they've been respectful, and I think that they deserve at least a response from you through us to be able to go and say, this is what it looks like. And I'm concerned that that is what is in the past been kind of just the concerns are raised and there's no feedback back. And I'd like to see that in writing with at least those 5 concerns, and then the golf course runoff. And then I'd like the water samples, and I'd like the traffic, or, we can move forward with that.
Alderman Hanneman.
Thank you, Mayor. Gentlemen, what I'm hearing from my colleagues tonight is that this likely would not pass this evening. And at the Plan Commission meeting a couple weeks ago, I offered to make the motion to table so that you would have that opportunity to address the concerns that have been raised here, I feel some of the concerns that I had originally had have been addressed, but there are other questions that have come up in discussion tonight. So I would again offer to make that motion to table.
Seconded by Alderman Nelson.
Till
Till January 4th?
January 4th, or would you like a longer time after the holiday to the second council meeting?
Samples and traffic. Boring samples, the analysis and the traffic.
Brian?
I guess I would ask for a clarification on what specifically additional information we'd want. I think the traffic study, I think I'm clear on that additional memo addressing any road closures. I don't believe we can provide anything more than that. Please clarify that. Soil borings are underway. We can get soil logs. It will take, with the holidays, it will take longer than January 4th to get a full report. As far as density calculations go, I'd see clarification from planning staff because their report to me says clearly that meet less than the density that was originally planned for. A little confused on that. So that's 3 items. Traffic, stormwater report is underway. It's been delivered to staff, so I guess I'll ask that city staff review that and provide a comment accordingly. That's 4 items, and I think 5 were mentioned, and I can't think of what the 5th is, so please help with that if you can.
Maybe those questions could be identified and some process here where you could see them.
So my suggestion is that before Friday, you get the applicant your very specific questions. And if your question relates to some numbers or technical aspect, that you reference the document from which you get it. Right?
What do you want them to, sir?
Send them to Mr. Eddy, and Mr. Eddy will put them together. Sorry, no? Okay, let's do it by Monday then. Get it to Mr. Eddy by Monday. Do not copy everybody. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And make sure that you're specific in your request. And again, I'll say it again, make sure that you note where you're getting your question from, because I hear lots of different numbers here. It's important to have the reference. And February, first meeting in February?
Is there a second meeting in January?
Sure, we can do second. It's, we're at your convenience. So your motion is to table till the second meeting in January. Is that your second?
Yeah, Mayor,
That'd be the 18th.
if we could have until Wednesday to get it back to Mr. Reddy, if that's fine.
Make it Wednesday then.
Yeah, with a lot of things. Thank you. Until Wednesday, I'm good with my second.
Okay, so it's that one. So on the motion, we'll do Wilhelm and then Alderman Hofer.
On the motion, I guess I'm concerned about the process that allows or doesn't allow any public to hear what those questions are. No, they can't read our emails. That's not a very good process, but if that's how you're going to do it, I don't think that's a very open government process, and I like open government.
I would hope that our responses to the questions are included in the January 18th packet.
Okay, that's a
my-
great
That's all I-
response.
And Alderwoman, to be honest with you, you knew that was the answer.
No, actually,
You knew that was the answer. So, go
well,
ahead.
that was cutting me off, but no, I didn't know. I never know how things are going to go because the process seems to change quite frequently. But I guess what I'm still concerned about, they're going down a PDD route. I'm talking about a R3E. I think the residents are, and the aldermen are, they're all talking about R3E. Are we still going to be pushing a PDD route when, are we, and if we are we going to try to stay within what the ordinance says about identical or greater than open space ratios and that we're not supposed to prove anything that's higher? So I like conservation subdivision. I'd like to at least to have them take a look at that, because one thing it does allow them to have a few more lots, because obviously they're looking for a lot of lots, as many as they can. But it also allows people that might want a smaller home, which is kind of the way it's going. And it would allow you to do some of the things maybe you're trying to do. I'm not sold on a PDD. I wish the council would address that issue, which we didn't. And I know, Mayor, we
I'll
have
do
a
it right
motion
now.
on the floor.
I'll do it right now. First of all, let's be clear. The current zoning in place is R3. No one is speaking about R3E except you, Alderwoman. And that would be a different rezoning application. This is an R3 zoning currently in place. The purpose in a PDD is because smaller lots with larger homes on them, which is kind of what we're talking about, do not comply with any zoning district in the city of Franklin. Is that correct, Mr. Eddy? He's not paying attention. So that's why you do a PDD if you want to do a smaller lot, smaller setbacks with a larger home. So that's the answer to your question.
Conservation?
They're not proposing that. They're proposing a PDD. Mr. Alderman Holfer.
Well, maybe I'm wrong on everything.
Thank you. So in principle, I'm not opposed. I am concerned a little bit about the density. If we go back to the earlier conversation with Alderman Nelson, it was if the R3 zoning was maintained, you're at about the same lot level number of units, correct?
Yes.
So presumably the traffic would be about the same. Now, we did have residents that said if it stayed the way it was, they would be more amenable to that. So to me, that at least diminishes a little bit of that traffic issue, not the safety of the road or things, but in terms of the quantity of the traffic. The main issues that I have are not really related to the zoning. I have real concerns with the water issues, not just the stormwater management, but I've experienced in the subdivision where I live, a couple of houses where a farm tile was cut and the neighbor's sump pump is going constantly, and in the winter the road is full of ice, and that's on several different occasions. Those kind of things aren't all going to be taken care of by a stormwater management plan. And if you've got a half a dozen basements that the sump pump's going off constantly days after it rains, a storm comes in, the power goes out. I've had a basement flood because the power went out to the sump. So those are real things that once it's in, it's too late. So I'm concerned about that. Before we move to table it, I would ask Alderwoman Wilhelm for a little clarity. You asked them to consider cutting back at least a little, what's a little? So we have a fair understanding.
We're talking to the chair, but the chair asked the Alderwoman for the clarification.
I don't have a magic number, and it's not my district, but obviously there's been enough concerns at the public hearing and here this evening, and the alderman, that I think if you could just bring it down a little bit, I think we could all be okay with it. So I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm just saying that I'm not really thrilled about 7.5 feet between a home when you've got that kind of hydric soil in
It
it.
is 15 feet between homes, by the way.
Okay.
It's a 7.5-foot side setback.
It's a side yard.
Then the other house would have the same.
Okay,
So it's 15.
So it's the total of both
the
of them
total, yeah,
together is what
yeah.
you're saying.
Yes.
It's very close, and, but,
We
and
do a
if you're,
lot. We like to say this, nobody grills in their side yard. You know, that's what we say. It's nobody grills in their side yard.
and I'm
it's
even
Not as
okay
good as Glenn's, but-
with moving houses up.
Okay,
so
we're
people can
getting
have
off
their
track here.
setback.
We have a motion on the floor to table. Alderman Hofer, you still have the floor.
I would just say, I understand where the Alderwoman doesn't want to put a number on it, but it puts the developer in a difficult position trying to meet a requirement that they don't have an understanding of what the requirement is. And I'm just trying to avoid, so we don't have to keep going back and forth, how much of a reduction roughly they should be looking
I'll
at.
leave that up to the alderman.
Okay. Alderman Barber, and then we'll go to a vote.
The things that was raised by the constituents has to do with the future, okay? When people start adding a jungle gym and fences and sheds in a high-density area, what might that area look like 5 to 10 years from now? I mean, that is the future. And I see it go, I mean, everybody that's going to buy a house is going to have a jungle gym. It's going to have a big shed in the yard. It's going to have a fence. I mean, those are considerations when you're putting everybody that tight. What does that look like down the road? And I think that's just my druthers speaking out.
So, you know, we do have deed restrictions. There are no sheds. You won't see a single shed in Rhinewood Manor, for instance. We do have a one spec for a fence that you can do, and that's a black wrought iron fence. It's the only kind of fence, and we're very serious about controlling that. You're absolutely right. People have jungle gyms. We love them, but we don't find those to be, we don't find those ever be a problem.
Okay, fair is fair. This is on the motion. That should have been in the email for next Wednesday.
All right.
Okay, so, given all of that, Alderman Nelson.
Gentlemen, are you confident that, given our questions and given the certain things that we're waiting on, that January 18th, you're going to have enough time to get all that information back, get it to, I mean, I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Well, I understand you're very motivated. I just want to make sure that everything is done, not that we're coming back here. Because I know there's going to be a barrage of questions given to our planning director. And I just want to make sure that you have enough time to vet those. And if you're good, we're good.
Alderman Mayor on the question, please.
I just want to remind everyone, we did talk about the future. We talked about future citizens. We talked about, you guys mentioned this is what people are looking for to buy, but my concern really isn't with people that are looking to buy this. My concern is with the people that are already here, because they're the ones that we're working for currently. And I just want to remind my colleagues that for every child from this development, we're not going to make any money on this. That was made very clear by the mayor at the Plan Commission. We don't make money on this. But for every child in this development, it's going to cost our taxpayers $6,900 to educate them. We will get impact fees, but impact fees are a one-time deal. That's $6,900 and 142 homes, easily 100 kids in the school district. That's $690,000 every year on our taxes. So we talk about taxes, and quite frankly, my Franklin taxes were the only ones that went up this year, the other entities went down, but how can the school district or anybody else maintain or hold their own when we're just adding to their burden? So 100 kids, and that's light on this. You know that this is a new subdivision. You're gonna have a lot of smaller kids in school for 10 to 20 years, and that's $690,000 per
Alderman,
per
I'm
100.
trying,
Thank you.
thank you, because that was way off the question. So, okay.
Good point.
Well, but here we go, we got a procedure. I was called out on a procedure tonight. Inappropriately, but I was called out on a procedure. You guys want me to stick to the procedure. I'm going to stick to the procedure. On the question, you ready? The question is to table till the 18th of January. Question submitted by Wednesday to Mr. Eddy. Okay, on that question, all those in favor of the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item G3. No, next one.
Okay, thanks. Don't make it.
Well, okay, G3, page 125. Authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to allow signing of a contract with Waystar Clearinghouse, update our immunization software.
Second.
Discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G4, page 145, an ordinance to amend municipal code, chapter 178, nuisances, that's new in your packet, regarding storage of firewood outside. We got a bunch of questions. I saw Alderman Wilhelm first, and then Alderman Mayer.
I would like,
By the way, sorry, staff loves this.
all right, is it on me yet? I'm asking if anyone will be grandfathered, because I know at least one 90-year-old person who has wood. And I would like to post this in the city newsletter prior to put this into effect, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that have wood stacked. The other reason for putting it in the newsletter and maybe making this ordinance 6 to a year out before it takes effect is because it's winter. Do not make people move their firewood during winter. It's just not a good policy. So whoever can make the motion, if they could, I don't know, we haven't talked about grandfather, but at minimum post in the city newsletter prior, and make it at least a year to 6 months out before it goes into effect, so people have time to address it.
Okay, excuse me, Alderman Mayer. I'm going to go to Mr. Planning Manager, Mr. Eddy, to explain what this is, because I think there's misunderstanding.
We actually reduced the setback distance from the rear lot line by 5 feet, assuming that that was the original intent. What we're trying to do is trying to come up with a way to address this, which sort of honored the original intent without creating a standard that was impossible for anybody to actually use. So that's where we came down. That's why we wrote it the way we did. This was me coming up with some idea, and then Scott massaging it in a sort of a back and forth, and that's where we ended up with the standard that's written.
A grandfather issue to address. So I still think it's important, if we're going to make this change, to let people know what we're doing and give it a little bit more time for, people to be able to address it. So can you explain, if I got a square lot, where can I store my firewood? Under your new.
The way we've written it, we've written it to allow for storage of firewood between the lot line adjoining a public right-of-way and the nearest spot of this principal structure within 5. No person shall store firewood in the front yard except for like a 14-day period. It basically is intended to allow the storage of firewood behind the house, but not in other areas. So it's basically behind the house, or as close to the lot line up to 5 feet away from the rear lot line. So it still requires some kind of an understanding as to what those lot lines are relative to the house. Inspection Services knows what those yards look like based on current interpretations, and they do that for building code. So they would do the same thing for this. They would just identify those areas. It tries to do the same thing that was originally intended. It just gives them a little more space to the rear lot line, while at the same time honoring the original intention, which is that if you put it in the front yard, we'll let you keep it there for 2 weeks and then gradually move it to behind the house.
I get the 14 days in the front, makes sense. The back, that makes sense. What about side? I wasn't clear on the side yards. If you can store wood on the side, because I know there's a lot of people that already have wood stored on their side yards. Fireplace people,
We, as it's currently written, it keeps it purposely vague. It really is not so much a question of whether or not you can have it in a side yard. It's just that we don't really want to see it in the front yard. We're trying to keep it away from the front yard and into either the side or the rear yard. So it's a way of not having it facing the street.
Okay, you've answered all my questions. I still like posting it in the letter and making it a little further out.
Alderman Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely we should give a notice on this, because especially over winter is when a lot of people. I'm in favor of giving notice for this as well, especially over winter, which is when a lot of people are burning their wood that's stored outside anyway. So give them a fresh start in spring. Heath, the way you said it a minute ago, I think is even more clear than what you have here, that it just can't be in the front yard. And the other question I have is 5 feet from the back lot line. I can picture a lot of lots in the community where there's a woods in the back, or where they have a wooden fence in the back. Why couldn't they stack it there?
That's up to you. Well, that's another piece. We're not going to know about it unless somebody complains.
Right.
So the standard is sort of like it's sort of a feel-good type of thing.
But you know how complaints come in with somebody who's disgruntled from somewhere else, not even their concern. And then once we're aware of it,
if you want to have allow people to store firewood at the lot line, you can do that. Just be aware that people are going to complain about that too. They'll find a way to complain.
Could you
if
put
they don't
something?
like it.
Could you put something in here similar to the open burning restrictions of the fire department, that if it's causing a nuisance, you have the authority to order it to be removed? Or would that get too undoable. Well, that was actually going to be one of my questions. Is this a problem that we need to address, that it happens a lot?
Yes. We need to address the wording of the ordinance.
But is it a problem that is brought to our attention a lot by complaints or whatever?
Madam Director of Administration, or Madam Clerk.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a lot, but what we have is people in violation because right now they can't have wood in their lots. And this is a pretty generous, if you look at the ordinances of other cities, you're going to see a lot tighter than this. So 5 feet away from the lot line's really not that much. So they can get it pretty close, but then if you let it go to the lot line, then all of a sudden you get a neighbor issue. So I think this is a very generous way to do that. And yes, there are people that have wood in their lots right now that when we get a complaint, we're supposed to act on.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to do everything we can to get something into the code so that we can act on that appropriately and not act on that inappropriately. Right now, we would, if you just said it's okay for people to have wood in their lot, on their lots, there's nothing that says we can do that. So this just solves that problem and keeps it, as Heath says, a little bit broad so that as long as people don't have it in the front yard for a long time, which is really what nuisances become, it's very palatable.
I
from
totally get the front yard part of it. Just that I'm not sure about the rest of it, but it's not something that we need to keep going back and forth on.
I'm not sure about what this actually does then. If we're just going to say, let's keep it off the front yard, I can understand that. But if you get a complaint in, what is this going to allow you to do with this new language?
It's going to allow people to store wood on their lot, and right now they can't. So we have a
You're getting
complaint
a
against
complaint that
somebody.
somebody is storing wood on their lot.
We do. We have a complaint out there right now, and we have two choices: enforce it or change the ordinance. We're trying to change the ordinance to allow it.
To be more reasonable.
To be more reasonable. That's
Or,
exactly
In
it.
other words, there would be a non-violation then at this point.
At this point, there's a
Okay,
violation.
I mean, if this
With
goes
the new
into
language, it would go away.
non-violation,
Correct.
That would be handled that way.
Correct.
Okay, now I understand it.
Well, my question was fence too. Because I'm a kind of person that likes to utilize all of my yard. And if I've got 10 feet would have been crazy, 5 feet, I wouldn't be thrilled about either. But if a person had either a solid fence or an enclosure, could they then put it closer than 5 feet? Fence can't be closer than 5 feet?
You can put it at the property line.
Yeah.
You can put it at the property line. Yeah.
But folks, you all understand and deal with complaints all the time. I urge you to let's move on, because we're making more out of this than really is going to, staff is going to deal with this because now they'll have a tool to deal with it. Your constituents aren't going to give a hill of beans about this. Okay, that didn't work. Alderwoman Hanneman.
I'm sorry, but I disagree. They are going to give a hill of beans when we put it in the city newsletter, and especially in my neighborhood, I'm going to have every neighbor saying, what, I got to move my wood pile now?
Technically, right now, they do. They can't have it there.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying in that regard. So we have to have something on the books. But you're just looking at my neighborhood where there are privacy fences between the lot lines. And many people do store their wood along those fences, and they are visible from the road. Would I classify that particularly as a nuisance? No. But we're still, these people are still going to be in violation, and then we're telling them up front that you are now in violation of something you've been doing for the last 25 years.
Okay,
If your wood is not stored according to this particular ordinance.
I'm trying really hard here. Let me try this. Let's get this approved. I'll work with Peggy probably, because Heath's got other things to do. We'll put something on the website and the newsletter that says this ordinance change allows you to store firewood on your lot in certain spots. Just be sure it's not in the front yard, and we'll move on.
I like it.
I like it. So there we go.
Sometimes life really isn't that hard.
If you're going to do that, you have to change section 1 of the ordinance, of the attached ordinance. You'd have to strike the words, starting with the quote after principal structure. This is in
Middle of the paragraph.
fifth line, section 1. After the word structure.
Yep.
From comma or within 5 feet of the rear lot line, comma. Actually, you could keep one of the commas, but or within 5 feet of the rear lot line, you'd have to strike that phrase.
So we'll put them in the ordinance prohibits within 5 feet of the lot line. If people have a problem, they'll call their alderman. You guys say, move on. Unless somebody files a complaint. See, this didn't work even some more. Dan.
I say we take out the 5 feet of lot line requirement. I think they should be entitled to, because we want them to keep their yard orderly and safe, and keeping their yard orderly might mean that they're gonna pile their wood up along the fence in the back or along the lot line or out of the way. So I think it's just an arbitrary requirement to say 5 feet from the rear lot line. That is not necessary. The intent is to get it out of the front yard. Totally get that.
I'm going to respectfully disagree. Your issue isn't with your neighbor's issue is not with the 5 feet, because you can justify it by saying, I'm 5 feet away from your property, shut up. But if you're putting your wood on the property line, you're going to get an argument. That's on my property. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Get a survey.
Why don't we do it with a fence? If a fence is there.
The fence needs to have a building permit.
Well, right. So if
So you want to pull a building permit for a wood pile?
Hey, if it's their choice.
You guys are going crazy, and I'm telling you, you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
We didn't bring it here.
Okay, then all the wood piles in the city are illegal. That's the choice you got.
No, it's not the choice. Not
It is
this or
absolutely
that.
the choice.
It is not the choice.
You guys do what you want.
Okay.
We're trying to.
What's a motion? We're spending an hour on every issue here, and this is just crazy. Somebody give me a motion.
Okay, well, I move to go with Heath's wording here, just eliminating the 5 feet rear lot line, or I'm open to, unless there's a fence in position 2. I don't care about that. I just think it should go up to the lot line.
I don't know what that motion was, because you had two options.
I don't either, because the fence thing came up too. I'll just leave it at that. The 5 feet, it can go up to the lot line, just like a fence. So Heath's wording, just eliminate the 5 feet from the rear lot line.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. I'm a city attorney, and then we've got a different issue.
The only time I spent on this agenda packet over the weekend, just off the top of my head, 5-yard, 10-yard setbacks prohibit basically all structures, if you will, in that area.
Yes.
Except for a fence, because
Yeah.
a fence is,
We don't currently allow accessory structures within 5 feet of a lot line. That's where the 5 feet comes from.
and to allow a wood pile there, a reasonable mental picture of a wood pile is that's akin to placing a shed up against the lot line. Just as a real world picture of that. I understand the thought of if there is a fence there, but then the fence should be described so that it's not a cyclone fence or whatever. I heard the term privacy fence. I heard the term wooden fence, but I would suggest the fence.
And then if you start bringing in terms like privacy fence or structured fence or something like that, now you have a definition, because you have to know what that means.
That's
And
correct.
Scott's going to need to know that in order to enforce that.
That's correct. And then there are going to be concerned about, well, my neighbor can have the stockpile with that fence. My fence is better, but I can't have the wood pile.
Okay, so that would have been important, good information to have ahead of time about the ancillary structures not being 5 feet from the lot line, and that makes perfectly good sense. What if we just say an approved closed fence, an approved fence that conceals the wood pile, something like that?
So
So it would answer the cyclone fence issue, and it would still let them put up a fence approved with a building permit, and then put their wood. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about it, because I think we are spending more time on this than we need to.
Well, now we've got, you need to pull a permit or something in order to get somebody to go out and approve the location of your wood pile. And guys, you all know the budget. We don't have the people to do that. So, okay, I'm going to do this. There's a motion on the floor to delete that sentence that says 5 feet. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That didn't sound right. Madam Clerk, let's take a roll, because when the phone calls come in,
Glad the treasurer's taking planes.
Right.
Alderman Hofer.
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wells. Aye. Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye. 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. The mayor didn't vote because it's, anyway,
Because
everybody's,
it's a policy decision.
and yeah. Now, our staff has to implement. Yeah, that, by the way, that went through with publication upon signature. So I'll hold on to it for a month and then we'll sign it. In the meantime, all these wood piles are out of compliance.
No. No, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Alderman Clerk.
Alderman Clerk. So its effective date is upon its passage and publication. If the mayor holds on to it for more than 10 days, I think it's 5. It goes into effect upon its publication. He doesn't have to sign something. It does still go into effect. He does have veto power, but I just wanted to clarify that it was not changed when the motion was made to change the effective date for any reason.
Well, I just hope that with all of this discussion, everybody understands that now at 5 feet, it's an even better piece of legislation, and we ought not be overly concerned about publication. Anybody wish to reconsider the motion to add language? No. Resist the urge, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Even without mayoral execution, publication places it into effect. And the publication would occur within the required time limit, which isn't a month out there, as the mayor said earlier, correct?
Correct. He just said, I'm going to hold on to it for a month. I did say what you said. I just said it in clerk language.
And let's be clear, I'm not vetoing it, I'm not signing it, it's not worth the effort. Can we please do some substantive business for the city? Item G5, page 149. Okay, Alderman Mayor, Alderman Barber, let's take a roll call.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes,
about this
please.
Very quickly.
We can't go by without doing, yeah, go.
So this is a pretty big deal. We're saving $21,000 on this piece of equipment that was just approved for $740,000. There was a question on the risk that the city's taking on by prepaying it. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear. We could have the company, Seagrave, do a performance bond and use 7,000 of our savings. They are insuring it. They are willing to give us the certificate of insurance. Our insurance company, LWMMI, said they think that's sufficient. I want to make sure the council is very clear that a performance bond does do a few different things in insurance, but we feel as staff and our insurance provider feel that we could go with the 21,000, and I just want to make sure council's clear on that.
Any changes to the motion? All those, we did. Madam Clerk.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderman Holfer.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. G6, page 151, is approval of a contract with Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, Inc. for the wall that heals. It's $1,000 now. Who said second first? You two argue between Hanneman and Mayor. Okay, Alderman Hanneman. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G7, page 161, an ordinance to amend 2021-2486, an ordinance adopting the 2022 annual budget for the general fund to carry forward unused funds as outlined on the page. Holfer and Hanneman. All those in favor? I'm sorry, roll call. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Holfer.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm. Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. G8, page 163 is a review of the professional services agreement between Franklin and Stantec. Mr. City Planning Manager.
Yeah, this is a of the requirement of our contract for quarry monitoring services with Stantec Consulting. They're keeping the number at basically the same where we are this year. As far as I know, this was reviewed already by the Quarry Monitoring Committee, although I'm not entirely sure of that. Yeah, they did recommended approval in October, and so we're bringing this forward for adoption for next year. This is in our budget.
Barber and Hanneman, Mr. City Attorney.
I understand that the.
Barber and Wilhelm. Mr. City Attorney.
I understand the motion is as set forth on the action sheet, which includes subject to technical corrections by staff and the city attorney. I did correspond with Department of City Development staff with regard to the standard form services agreement. This one has kind of been repeated apparently instead of being updated as
Okay.
it was a couple of 3 years.
Is your motion, Alderman Barber? I understand. And Alderman Hanneman?
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Wilhelm?
The question was, the Quarry Monitoring Committee voted to have that extra unused money sent to the council to move a monitor or something.
Yes, that's correct. There is a proposal to move one of the monitors on 51st Street. We wanted to move it, south, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're trying to, we're negotiating about what to do with that. I think Stantec agreed that they could fit it within the exceptional reports leftover budget for this year, that we're going to use that to move the monitor south.
Thanks for the clarification.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G9 is an ordinance to amend special, an approved use within B2 and B5, Mr. Sitting Planning Manager. I hate long titles.
Yeah, this is, without getting into all the different categories, it's because our ordinance is based on the SIC tables. It's basically classification numbers 1711, 1721, 1731, 1741, 1742, 1743, 1751, 1752, 1761 are currently all listed as special uses in the B2, B5, and M1 districts. We had a situation on a Forest Home where we had a plumbing contractor who had a special use approval, and they were moving out, and we had an electrical contractor come in and wanted to use the same property and can't do it without a special use approval. Because even though contractors operate on site, they might be doing different things, but they're doing different things somewhere else. On a given site, they use it for office, supplies, supply storage, and equipment storage. Every single one of them. So why are we making them go through a special use for the same thing? So that's why we're requesting that these all go to permitted. This is one of those things we're going to fix with UDO, because we're going to get rid of the SIC table and we're going to go with something that's categories of uses. So you're going to, instead of seeing all these different categories of different types of activities, you're going to see something like contractor shop or contractor's office or something like that. This is one of the fixes we're proposing to make going forward. But for now, we want to get this on the book so we can allow somebody to, you can trade out a contractor with a different contractor without having to go through this process.
Heath, one of the questions I have, because I deal with this with a area by me where there's yard work in the back and they're making noise by loading. And it's right next to a residential area. And I could not tell by looking at the map that's in the packet. So then I went online and the comprehensive master plan is sideways. So I had my laptop sideways. Could we spin that map for one thing? That would make it helpful. But I just wondered about, one of the areas is concrete work that's allowed. And I'm just imagining, are they mixing it? Are they loading? Are they, is that going to be an allowable use in the backyard of a, and could it be up against a residential area?
Again, these are not activities that would be done on the site. So concrete mixing would not be done on the site. It would be done probably in a truck on the way to wherever the site is. The site would be allowed for, these categories are intended for offices and storage and that type of thing. If they wanted to do something that was outside the building, like outside storage or outside materials or something like that, that would require special use.
Okay.
So,
is it clear enough in there that these are not going to allow outside uses?
Yes.
Only inside. Okay, then
Yes.
I'm fine with it. That's, thank you.
Yes, Alderman Nelson left his seat at 9:03. I left some period of time ago and came back some period of time ago, and I was only gone a short period of time. And Alderwoman Hanneman took command of the situation. There is not a vote. Is there? Right. So Alderman Nelson's not available, but I don't expect that to be an issue. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. See, it wasn't an issue. G10, page 187 is a resolution to issue change order 2 to super excavators for the South Hickory Street utilities. It's a savings of almost $80,000.
Move to approve option A.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That was Barbara and Hofer. G11, page 205, is a resolution to authorize Amendment 5 for Task Order 5 to Ruckert and Milky for improvements to existing median in Oakwood Road in the amount of $28,100. I think that's a lot of money, Glenn. Personal opinion.
Second.
Hanneman and Barber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The vote was 501. G12, the PPI reduction policy on page 212. Mr. City Engineer.
So we've had some discussion, I believe, in committee of the whole. We discussed this, what we were looking to do. We took all those comments back. We had an internal committee that's met a few times, including some emails back and forth to figure out exactly how to work on this policy. Probably the large thing that last time it was discussed here was a point of discussion was should folks be penalized of any sort if they don't comply? The thought is that if you're asked, basically it's your time for an inspection. If you say no, we'd like to say no, that's fine, but we'll charge you a nominal fee and we decided a nominal fee was $5 a week. And we understand that some folks will just don't want to be bothered with allowing folks in their home. The idea is that that fee is analogous to, we have to assume that there is some sort of leakage going on in your lateral or sump pump, and so therefore we have to compensate for that. We had a discussion internally quite a bit about that. One of the issues was, we really do that somewhat now with the water side. When we have to replace the meters, we need to come into your house to replace the meter, and if you don't want us to come in, we do have a surcharge for that when that happens. So that was a large point of discussion both at Board of Public Works and this internal committee. The Board of Public Works talked about it for 3 meetings. MMSD, it's important to note that MMSD did want us to have some sort of a stick. They felt that if we didn't have that, then the whole policy would fall apart and not work. So we have to include some sort of a stick in this, a carrot and a stick, if you will, in order for MMSD to approve this process, because they don't think it would work without that. So having said that, we've made changes. Again, this was discussed substantially at Board of Public Works, as Alderman Nelson can attest to. There was a lot of questions, and I think we've answered them, and the groups were okay with it. The policy as written will allow us to finalize the actual policy, if you will, over the next first quarter of 2022. We intend to return to you probably the next meeting and with the contract for the firm to help us message. We I think all understand that messaging is very vital to this program. We want to make sure that it's not written by an engineer, so that it is clear and concise, and we implement it in such a way that folks want to do this. Some of the ideas we've talked about implementing, and this will be decided again in the first quarter, is possibly allowing maybe some gift cards. Pick some local businesses, and we say, it's your time, we'd like to do this, and folks would say, okay, come on in. And so as a carrot, if you will, we'll offer some maybe gift cards to some local businesses or gas cards or something like that. So that has yet to be decided. We will keep the internal committee, including Alderwoman Hanneman as part of that committee, keep them involved, and we'll bring this forward when we're ready to finalize the policy.
I have 2 small changes that I'd like to recommend to the Common Council. The fine is 5.03, paragraph 6. My suggestion is you take paragraph 6 out, move it down to policy specifics, make it make it section 7 and make 8 retention, but make one paragraph, one section that says penalty or words to that effect, and have that sentence stand out, because it's hidden right now.
Okay.
With that, questions? Alderman Hanneman, Barber.
And I would support that change, to pull out the penalty and make it stand out a little more clearly for our residents. And I want to thank the city engineer and the committee and the Board of Public Works, because a lot of work and discussion has gone into this. And I will say stay tuned, because you'll get an inside look at the Hanneman family lateral before this is all done, because your sewer backing up 2 weeks before Christmas is also a good carrot and stick. But thank you. I'm glad to see this coming forward now, and I think it'll be a good program.
Alderman Barber.
I would also like to just comment that last time this came before us, you listened to us and got some feedback about how we communicate this to the public. And I think this sheet does a lot of that kind of clarification for the residents to understand what the problems might be and what would be going on.
So if I could clarify, the sheet that you see in your packet is actually from MMSD. It's called the Pipe Check Program. So by participating in the Franklin program, it would make someone eligible for the Pipe Check Program through MMSD. So there's a substantial cost benefit to folks that want to produce that. However, we don't require that. So if someone, say, has a brother-in-law who's a licensed plumber and can fix this for them for less money than then that would be acceptable too. They still have to get a permit through our inspection department, but that is an option for them. It is a very good benefit for the residents.
Before Alderman Nelson, I'm going to jump in because I can do that. The drawing on this sheet from MMSD does not apply to the city of Franklin because it shows the foundation drain directly to the sanitary sewer. And we haven't permitted that, I think, ever. And that would cause some confusion because we're trying to eliminate that. So I would have them do a different drawing for us. Alderman Nelson.
Thank you. I also agree with the mayor's standalone statement for that penalty part. I'd like to thank the members that were involved with this. I had an opportunity with the Board of Public Works to observe them digging in on this, and really we're pretty motivated. And I know I would like to be one of the first test subjects as well. I have no problem with that. So. I'm down.
And you notice what's interesting is every person at this dais laughed at that. That means something. Anyone else?
No.
Just single family.
Single family. That's an MMSD policy, what PPII funds are supposed to go for.
Motion on this matter.
Policy with changes in 5.03 sub 6 is a separate paragraph number 8.
7.
Yeah. To be titled penalties.
May I suggest that we had a lot of discussion on penalties, taxes, and so forth, and we've decided to call it excess charges.
I'm fine with that.
Second by Alderman Nelson. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G13, page 221, amendment number 3 to the service contract between City of Franklin and Southeast Inspection. This, as you know, is our contract department head in building inspections.
So moved.
In stereo. I'll do Barber and Mayor. Okay, just a regular roll call. Just regular motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G14, page 227 is our contract with Geographic Marketing Advantage for GIS service.
Second.
Mayor and Barber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G15, page 237, resolution to enter a license addendum number 3 with Wisconsin Electric to transfer their Test Corners Creek culvert to us. Nelson and Mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G16 is a request to carry forward unused appropriations for use in 2022 from 2021, $1,475,415. They're enumerated on your action sheet.
Move to authorize.
Second.
All right, let's go for the seconds again. Who wants it? Okay, Hanneman and Holfer. This next needs a roll call.
Alderman Holfer.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm. Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstention, motion carries. G17 is an authorization to amend the existing consulting agreement with SB Freeman for financial analysis on TID projects for $25,000.
Move to authorize.
Second.
Hanneman and Barber, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The fun one of the night, G18, the 2022 property and casualty insurance coverage, Madam Director of Administration.
Of the night. So this is our annual insurance renewal. We did get a little bit of good news this year. Our experience modification for workers' comp went down a bit, and some of our LWMMI straight coverages also went down. So we're looking at decrease of approximately $1,800 for those liability coverages.
Questions? Is there a motion to authorize? Alderman Mayor,
Hey, what's covered for public officials there?
you got plans or what?
So we do have a public officials liability that's covered. So
And does that cover us for malpractice? Does it cover us in case we're injured on the city, or what does it cover?
acting in scope of your position is covered. Acting out of scope of your position is at your own risk.
Okay. What does that mean?
That means if you're doing what you do in your job, then you're covered. If
Okay.
you choose to go outside of the boundaries of what your official duties are, then you would just have to be on your own.
Okay.
Nice time to.
I know, eh? I know.
Alderman Hall?
Well, I guess I'm on that response, since we had no official guidelines in place previously, that would have been questionable, but I guess the guidelines now make it a little more clear. But I have a question about, it says public officials, so I see officers, officials, public officials. Do we have a definition of who's what anywhere in the city?
So we have a binder that explains everything. I think you might have reviewed it. That's everything on, well, you're talking about our ordinance, our codes that tell roles and
Right.
responsibilities. I think you might be referring to the insurance policy itself.
Yeah, does it break down? Because I think it's really important because those words are so often interchangeably used and confusing, so.
So can you repeat the question again, just so I understand?
I've seen the term officers, officials, and public officers. So, and they seem to be used interchangeably. So all I'm saying is when we're using these, can we make sure there's a clear definition somewhere and that we're always using them correctly?
So the coverage, insurance coverage covers all of those. An officer of the city is an official officer identified by statute and/or code. Public officials are those that are in elected positions. And did you have another?
Officers are,
Officers are identified by statute and ordinance.
and they include.
There's a whole list of them. It's the treasurer. Yeah, I don't have them all.
Doesn't include officers, doesn't include electeds,
Correct.
and then official would be the same as.
Officials is a little more general. Officials can cover any of those topics.
Including elected.
Correct.
What about words?
Correct. As long as they're within their scope of their duties for the city, and the city has authorized them. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you could ask the city attorney, but usually cities fall back on statute, on officers, official officers.
Thank you.
So move to approve?
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's do our usual routine. Move to item H1, licenses. Alderman Nelson.
Approve Bertram, approve Fitzpatrick. Approve Bertram, approve Fitzpatrick, approve Grafe with the stamp on the application. What? Notary stamp, okay, not just stamp, notary stamp. Approve Theophania with completed application.
Preview. What about preview?
Approve.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to item I, city vouchers. Is there a motion approving the following city vouchers and ending date of December 2nd, 2021? in the amount of $1,401,311.55, and payroll dated December 17th in the amount of $426,380.51, and payments to various payroll deductions in the amount of $242,718.45 plus city matching payments. An estimated payroll for December 31st, estimated at $440,000, and payroll deductions estimated at $479,000 plus city matching payments. Approval to release the payment to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund in the amount of $1,000, and approval to release employee payroll advances as necessary in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm. Alderman Mayor.
Aye.
Alderman Hope.
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. With that, we've come to the end of our regular order of business. We have 3 closed session items. So we're going to end the stream and probably not return a stream. We'll return a stream on G19. So keep tuned in. All right, with that, is there a motion? Yeah, let's take a break for till 25 after, and then we'll go into closed session then. After open session, the same place thereafter to act on such matters as discussed therein as deems important.
So moved.
Second. Madam Clerk.
Alderman Hopper.
Aye.
Alderman Mayor. Alderwoman Wilhelm. Alderwoman Hanneman.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye. Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. We are in closed session.
Wisconsin Local Government Memorandum of Understanding, the Wisconsin State-Local Government Memorandum of Understanding, the Settlement Participation Form for the Distributor Settlement, and the Settlement Participation Form for the Janssen Settlement, and to authorize the mayor to execute same and all other forms, documents, communications, and agreements in relation thereto, as may be part of the process, including but not limited to registration on behalf of the city on the National Opioid Settlement website.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Barber, seconded by Alderman Hopfer. Let's just, for clarity's sake, do a roll call.
Aye.
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 Motion carries, 6 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. We will, of course, continue to keep the council updated on this as it goes forward. The documents that were originally confidential are now non-confidential. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
Correct.
Correct. So, okay. With that, thank you very much. Move on to item G20, which is another closed session relative to water services.
Motion to enter closed session.
Is there a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stat 1985 sub 1 sub E for market competition and bargaining reasons to deliberate and consider terms relating to investment in public funds, including tax incremental district number 6, Loomis Road Business Park, and water impact fees and governmental actions relating thereto, and to effect such acquisition for development projects and to re-enter open session in the same place thereafter to act on such matters as discussed therein. Alderman Barber moved.
Second.
Nelson, second. Madam Director of Administration.
Aye.
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 Motion carries, 6 ayes. We are in closed session. It is 10:57, 9:57. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 9:59. Okay. See, it seems like we've been here all night, you know? It is 9:56. Are you going to get into this now, too? That's an atomic clock. That's an atomic clock hooked up to the internet. It ought to be perfect. At any rate, It's almost 10 o'clock. We're back in the open session. Is there action on it, Mr. City Attorney? There is no action to be taken on that previous item. With that, Mr. City Attorney?
With regard to item G19 and the query from the mayor as to whether or not everything's public documents now, in the event that there were any attorney-client privileged documents, that privilege remains. Specifically with regard to what's public documents now, it is the more of agreement documents mentioned in the motion primarily, as well as Exhibit E to settlement agreement, which was previously provided to the council members, just for clarification.
Okay. We move to G21. Is there a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin 19.85 sub 1 CB for competitive and bargaining reasons to consider a potential acquisition portion of the property at 11213 West Swiss Street, 11225 West Swiss Street. Tax keys are on the sheet, to be used for public pathway trail along the West Church Street, and negotiation of purchase and investing of public funds, including park impact fees with regards to potential acquisition thereof, and to re-enter open session in the same place thereafter to act on such matters as they may deem appropriate. Mayor and Holfer, Madam Director of Administration.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Motion carries. We're in closed session. Spinning. It is 10:06. We are back in open session. No action to be taken on the prior matter. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Mayor and Wilhelm. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, you guys.